Good morning. It is Tuesday, October 10th, and I get the privilege of welcoming Ben Hadley over here to the pod. We're talking about a heat map for the UAW, Lithia raising the ante, and Disney going crazy.
The people really want to know who I is and who I be. They stop and stare when they see me.
I don't know where I got Disney going cray, but that's all I could come up with.
Disney is going cray, dude.
It is. It's kind of. I've seen more Disney news across like multiple different things that they're doing in the last week than I probably care to see from a Disney perspective. So it's that was doing something.
We can go into the politics, but maybe we shouldn't.
Maybe we should. Maybe we'll get more downloads, more clicks. You know.
Let's go. Get some controversy.
There you go. Well, hey, we're glad you're here with us this morning. If you're listening, we're releasing content like crazy. I can't even keep up with it all, Ben. We've got a SoduCon sessions going live on the YouTube in the app. We've got auto collabs episodes with Steve Russler and Jimmy Douglas. Actually, the Jimmy Douglas episode is absolutely dope. If you don't know Jimmy, who is the ex-used car director for Tesla and is now Creative Plug, you got to get to meet him. It's 20 minutes of.
He's the best.
He's really, and he's just a cool dude, you know, like super smart, but super cool dude. Yeah. And he's got a history that you wouldn't believe from, you know, a guy that you just think, oh, that's a Tesla guy, you know. So you got to check that out.
I'll check it out.
Also, I don't know if you know this, we're premiering episode 2 of More Than Cars on October 18th.
The LinkedIn event invite last night.
There you
go. I'm
there
ready for it.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, we learned so much from the first one, and then I got my hands dirty a little bit, may or may not have changed some oil, may or may not have beat Paul again in a little competition, you know. So
yeah, dude, I've been waiting for it. That is like, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for this.
It's going to be good. And then you don't know this, or maybe you do. You're just following on. You're like a fanboy sometimes. But West Her, your boy Matt Lasher, had us out, and that episode will be coming like early November. So they're coming in hot now.
Man,
I know, it's real good. And Scott,
I know that one's gonna be good.
Scott Bueller is just so good. He's man, you describe the owner of West Her. He's just resolute, and he doesn't need to be anything for anyone. He just knows who he is, cares for his people, and you know, they throw a party bigger than most state fairs just for their employees. So that's how it goes.
So dope.
All right. Speaking of, you know, states.
Parties.
Stop. Segue.
Hey, if you don't know this, the Automotive News has done us a massive favor in creating just a wealth of information on a single page about what's going on in the UAW strike, so you don't have to guess anymore. The link is in the show notes, but one of the things that they've done is given us a map of exactly where and what plants in the U.S. are being affected by the strike. What we looked at was actually only a few plants have over 1,000 workers striking. The majority of the plants have less than 100 workers striking, and the strikes are spread out across the U.S. So when we've talked about on the podcast these like targeted strikes at specific plants, not wholesale changes, not wiping out everything, you know, the UAW has been extremely strategic, and they haven't advanced those strikes as of last month or of last week. So we're seeing like you're actually able to see that it's not this just massive wholesale thing. A few of the other things that you can see in there is this gap between the UAW demands and the OEM proposals, but it also includes some things that they haven't been talking about, like some updates to PTO and some holiday inclusions like Juneteenth. The one that the graph that got me, and this will get you, Ben, is the difference between the hourly labor costs current and of the big three and Tesla, which right now the current the three OEMs range between $63 and $67 an hour, where Tesla is between $45 and $50 an hour. And some of these updates will bring the UAW workers into the average of over $100 an hour average for labor costs.
I mean, if you didn't want to get into auto, This is first one, part one. Damn, $100 an hour. Let's go.
Like, let's go
Part
work out.
two is what a discrepancy though between like we get all these little vignettes, right, of like the new world of auto, which you put like Tesla and all the other guys in, and then the old world of auto, and you get to see these different slices between the supply chain, between this UAW strike, but like that number is a wild difference in
Yep.
pay.
It is.
That's
It's a
crazy.
massive difference. And then when you think about the volume of workers there, one of the other graphs showed like back in the early 2000s, there were over 700,000 workers in the UAW. Now there's 350,000. And we're going to probably see that go down as the EV plants require less people. And then the last graph, this was the most interesting one to me, is as you see these pay rate increases over the last 10 years, you start to see market share also dwindling. Now, I don't think it's a direct correlation, but I do think that this is where like Jim Farley and Mary Barra and Stellantis are really looking at, wait a second, our market share has been declining over the past 10 years due to new manufacturers coming in or other manufacturers from outside the US having a bigger part to play in the US just buying ecosystem in the market share. And so I'm seeing market share decline, yet costs increase, and EV manufacturers coming with significantly less costs. I can't imagine being the OEM right now and looking at these demands and going, yeah, this makes a ton of sense for business continuity over the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, well, the other piece I would add to that is that, like, if you look at Tesla's resilience during the COVID supply chain freakout because they own their own supply chain, you start looking at the nimbleness and agileness. So what you're watching is, okay, yeah, sure, maybe they get a higher pay rate, but if the employee numbers dwindle, that's only because they're outsourcing that supply chain further away. If
Right.
they near source it, maybe not less like maybe there's not as much shock to the system in the next crazy event that happens in our world. But if they way outsource it, right, to recover the discrepancy of cost, that means like, someone sneezed in China again, you know, pause the world, and then that gives your competitor a wicked advantage, right? When you own
Right.
your whole supply chain and all of it's really close. So
Yeah.
it's really wild to
Well,
watch
that's
these
I
two
think that's the
behemoths
dynamic
go
that a
at
lot
it.
of times we just don't see in just, like, well, more pay, of course, which is like I think generally good for the workers and the families,
Totally.
right? But there's a whole other business economics that has to be at play and has to be considered here.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of business economics,
Segue.
Nice.
these are some serious economics. And just so you know, Ben, you're getting like the Ben Love Fest in the comments on LinkedIn. But
Let's
Lithia
go.
Motors Incorporated has raised its offer to acquire Pendragon's dealership and fleet business. Pendragon operated out of Europe to $482 million amid a competitive bidding environment involving multiple auto retailers, notably AutoNation. Initially, the Lithia Motors offer was at a $350 million offer, while AutoNation has already come in with a $544 million acquisition proposal. Now, here's the interesting stuff here, and I think this is why this still isn't settled, and Pendragon hasn't, signed on the dotted line somewhere, because I mean that's a massive gap in dollar amounts. But as a part of the deal, Pendragon's DMS Pinewood would morph into Pinewood Technologies, and Lithia would still only own about a sixth of that. So they wouldn't actually take a majority ownership share in the technology side of stuff. But Lithia already has 40 dealerships in the UK and is going to roll out the Pinewood DMS to the other major retailers that they have in the UK and most likely start to bring that into the US. So there's a big, like attraction there when you're talking about the largest in volume of rooftops across the US and Europe that could be utilizing the technology. David Whitson, analyst with Morningstar, noted there could be a lot more value long-term for Pendragon shareholders by going with the Lithia deal versus the immediate cash payout to selling to AutoNation. Really interesting stats there.
Yeah, I wonder how much of this is about the data infrastructure that is sort of part of that dealership. Because as I understand it, it's actually harder and harder to own to be a landowner in Europe.
Hmm.
So, like that, if your leverage on a normal dealership is both the real estate and the inventory and the revenue, I wonder, I don't know the details, but I'd imagine that there's less of the leverage on the real estate side. But
Right.
one place I think that would be interesting to explore it is on the data side. From, like, we were talking about this yesterday, Kyle. It's like if you have first party data and you're enhancing it and adding columns to it, right? Then your relationship with that data is better than anybody else's in the world. So I wonder how much they've explored that angle.
Yeah, like what's the crossover of the data between the Pendragon stores and the 40 stores that they already have, and can both get additive first party data to enhance their ability to gain market share or retain market share that they currently have in Europe.
I don't mean, like, I don't think it's, they're not going to care about me going to buy a car in Europe. That's
Right.
unlikely. What I think, it's like, you're not just going to stop at Pendragon. You're going to break into Europe. So to understand the European consumer better than anybody else that's also going to break into Europe and start making moves there, it's like, let me get the most enriched level of data first. So I can understand what the next strategic chess moves that I'm going to make once I'm over there. Yep. I would pay a premium just to get that.
Yep. Yeah. I think the interesting thing to me is that Pendragon hasn't just snapped up the $544 million proposal from AutoNation. That's what I want to understand. Like, what about the Lithia makes it such a long-term play? Is it solely based on the technology, the value of the technology potentially expanding quicker? Is there a bigger data play? Is there a bigger brand play? Just lots of questions there. Lots of questions.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of some questions.
Segue.
Time.
All the users on X, formerly Twitter, have lots of questions for Disney because AI may be marking its way into larger creative company operations in an unwanted fashion, as it looks like the jury may still be out on whether or not Disney crossed the line with generative AI to create a Loki poster. Characteristics like randomly placed squiggly lines and awkward human shapes have led people to believe that this poster has and you can see a little, if you're watching it, you can see just a part of it. And if you look in between the Roman numeral 6 and number 7, if you've ever done any like generative AI, you can start to see this little characteristic of a squiggly line. Essentially what they're looking at there is that background image could be a part of a Shutterstock library that's not being noted as AI, and it may actually be someone in the Disney ecosystem that's uploading these images to Shutterstock. They're not sure. And then the other part of it that's really interesting is the little human images that are going around the main character's head kind of have some of those like AI generated notes, like little tiny arms or like misplaced portions of the face or things like that, which is what you typically get in AI generated images. If you look close enough, you start to see, that's not exactly it. So I don't know if this is like this is like huge brand play. Kudos for something like Loki, which is already just like a mess of a show, and understanding the time space continuum that they have, or maybe it's a misstep in how they are deeming creative get to.
It's also weird. It's wild. Like, what I also think we're seeing is like fast rewind a few years and people would have been like, what was that movie, Avatar, right? Not AI, but insane amounts of CGI,
full CGI, right?
And everybody's like, oh my God, look what computers can do today. Now you're starting to see this, like, just like you saw with COVID, where everybody kind of thought e-commerce was going to have a boom, right? Nobody's ever going to buy a car in a store again. And then it turned out, oh no, we all want to see people and we all want to shake hands and we all, I guess, want to go to Taylor Swift concerts to see those people, right?
Yep.
I think AI has the similar pattern happening where, we go from, oh my God, it's so cool what computers can do, to that's not human. Wait a second.
That doesn't feel
I want
good.
to see human
Right.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So we're almost getting the reversion of the mean back to really wanting humans again.
You know, it's funny. I see that even in the written word. Like I'm starting to even just be able to sniff it out. Like, no way a human wrote that. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like I don't even need an AI question thing.
Go
And
chat. Yeah. Remember yesterday I was like, go chat with my AI bot. And you were like, dude, that doesn't sound like you at all.
That's not even you at all.
You're right. Yeah,
right. So AI is clearly getting it wrong. But I do like, I wonder if there's a place for some parts of creative to go, no, we intentionally used AI. Like if I was Disney, I would come out with that marketing spin on this thing and be like, no, because it's Loki and because we're talking about time and space travel and it's already ambiguous. We intentionally used AI in a really unique way to prove that all of the show is ambiguous. You know, that's the marketing spin on this.
That's a good spin. Hey, if you're listening, Disney, that's it.
Hit us up.
That's it right there.
That was us. That was us. Well, hey, that's all we got time for today. Maybe you can throw a marketing spin on the fact that you use ChatGPT and you're super innovative. But if not, like people want to be human. People want to see humans, care for humans, and learn from humans. So be human today.
Let's go.